didn't feel like it had bones in it, but it was definitely cold and prickly, and I could feel it through the covers, on top of me. So yeah, that was freaky. There was other times where the woman would come in and just kind of stand by my bed, and there was always, like I said, the thing never hurt me. It would just mess with me, and its presence was menacing enough to scare me into submission. So I would just kind of lay there, and then eventually fall asleep because I was so terrified. Well, this, like I said, would happen over a span of years. I'm trying to think of some really good ones, really high points. There was one night where it was raining. I remember it was a Saturday night, and I was probably about 8 or so. And I'm up, I can't sleep, and I'm not getting up or moving around or anything. But I'm just kind of in bed, doing whatever, thinking about whatever I'm thinking about. I don't know. Probably back then it was, you know, GoBots or something. I don't know. Anyway, all of a sudden I hear feet come into the room, like walking. But with the sound of feet is also a clicking sound, almost like she's clicking her tongue. So she's walking, you can hear her walking, but she's going. So every time she takes a step, so you hear her feet. So it was really strange. I don't know what that was supposed to be, but I think a lot of it was kind of a mind game, maybe, that she was playing, and she would do that. And every time she would walk, you'd hear that. So, and it's like she was, I don't know. I really don't know what her intention was. Anyway, she stood by the bed, just kind of stood there, and just, I don't know, watching me or whatever. And there were times when this thing would come in my room, and, when you're, during the day or whatever, playing a scenario out in your head, you're going, okay, tonight I'm going to ask this person who they are and what they want. Yeah. When they show up, you lose your nerve, and you can't talk, you can't move. There was one night, again, with the feet, where I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden I hear the springs on the bed creak to my left. Well, I put my hand out, and there's a woman's bare foot right there on the side of the bed. It was cold, and she was there. It was real. I mean, I could feel skin. It was as real as I'm sitting here talking to you right now. Well, I get up. I'm like, I'm getting out of bed. I can't do this. So I walk up the hall, and my parents' room was actually, the door was open. So I stand there by my parents' door, and I want to say something, but I can't. I don't want to wake my parents up. So I'm like, what do I do? I can't, because I figure they don't believe me as is. And they would, my mom would kind of use it as leverage for things sometimes. Like if I leave my window open, she'd say, you might want to close that window, because what if that lady comes through the window or something? Or my dad would make jokes. I'd say, hey, Dad, that lady came in my room last night. And he'd say, well, what'd she say? Hey, big boy, or something like that. So they weren't taking it seriously. So, and at one point, my mom would even say things like, I think you dreamt this. I don't think this is real. I think you're imagining all this, And thank God they never took me to a psychiatrist or something, But yeah, this was really what was going on. And, it wasn't until years later that I don't know what made my mom start to believe or what made my mom kind of like finally come around. But she did say finally, yeah, there could have been something in that house that was messing with you. And I'm like, yeah, there was something, definitely. There was one time where the woman paid me a visit. Oh, and this was the other thing. I would close my door, right? Because I figured if my door was closed, she couldn't get in. Well, one night I'm laying there and I hear a noise by the door, and then I hear feet walking towards my bed. oh my God, how did she get in here? So, needless to say, the usual terror takes its place. I lay there motionless, don't move, and eventually fall asleep. Well, that morning, I get up and I'm going to go out and watch cartoons. So I open the door, and as I'm walking out, I hear somebody walking out behind me. So I run. I run up the hall into the living room. And what was funny is she didn't chase me, So I was like, oh wow, this is weird. Well, I went back to my room a little later for something. I don't remember what I was getting, but I walked in there, got what I needed, and as I'm walking out, guess what? I hear feet again walking after me, and I'm like, I gotta go. So again, I ran up the hallway into the living room. So yeah, that was freaky. And like I said, this thing kind of bothered me up until I was about 11. I think 11 was the last visit I had received. Oh, and the other weird thing is I found when my parents were having issues that, when my parents finally got divorced, prior to the divorce, when they would fight a lot and my dad wasn't living at the house and, all kinds of other stuff, that this spirit entity, whatever it was, would come visit me more frequently, and so yeah, it was really weird. There was one time I did test it when I was younger. I had this like a teddy bear that I used to sleep with, and the woman was on the bed or whatever, so I kind of pushed the teddy bear towards her, and she grabbed it. So I pulled it back right away. I'm like, oh, she pulled the teddy bear from me, or she didn't get it from me, but she did try to pull it out of my hand. So yeah, there was some freaky stuff. Well, let me just fast forward here, because like I said, this thing left me alone when I, got older. I think maybe because my confidence was a little higher, and I was starting to become a little more sure of myself. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't so, meek and frail and scared and, all that type of stuff as I, became a teenager, or at least into my preteens. So, but there was other things that it would do, and maybe it didn't affect me necessarily, but like my brother started getting in a lot of trouble, which I'm not going to go into, but he had some issues, and there was other stuff that was going on that just didn't seem right. Well, we moved out of that. Well, when my parents got divorced, my dad got the house. So that's where my dad lived up until I was 18. And when I turned 18 and went away to college, then that's when he moved out of that house and got a kind of downsized a little bit. So let's fast forward to 2000. And I have a friend who's, let's just say, a little bit in touch with her psychic side, if you will, kind of into the paranormal and into the whole, all that type of stuff, the occult and the whole psychic thing and crystals and chakras and whatever. So I'm telling her the story, and she says, you know what? We should go get a Ouija board and let's go buy the house that you used to live in. I said, okay. So we buy this Ouija board. We go to my house. We pull up in front, and we don't want to park in the driveway because there's people there. The new people are there. But there were some rocks in front of the driveway. So she said, you know what? Grab a pocket full of those rocks. Just put a bunch in your pocket. And then we're going to drive down. There's a little dirt lot that's behind this. My neighbor that was across the street, his name was Jerry. So right behind Jerry's house was an empty lot. So we park in the empty lot. We pull out the Ouija board, and we ask it, is there someone here? Well, it moves to yes. Then we asked it, could it spell its name? And it spelled out D-A-X. So at that point, she's going, you know what, I'm not getting a good vibe here. This does not feel good. Anyway, long story short, we said, screw this, put the Ouija board away, throw the rocks out, let's go home. Well, she looked into what Dox was. Dox apparently is a demon that's a South American, I think it's from South America. And what it does is